Hi.
How's it going, Joe?
Good. You?
Doing great.
Your name is
Ben Milne,
Milne, and you are founder of
a company called Dwolla.
Dwolla. So what is Dwolla?
Dwolla is a way for two people to send and receive money between one another, essentially while bypassing interchange costs. So it allows businesses to get paid by consumers, consumers to exchange money between one another with friends, and also has a platform that allows developers to build it into other applications. What makes it so special is it allows people to exchange money at an extremely low cost very quickly.
Okay. What was the cost of that, like between the exchanges?
The cost is 25 cents a transaction with Dwolla. I would say with our primary competing platform that we hear of most often, it's 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction.
Oh, that's awesome. So if, let's say if I would send you $500, it would still be around 25 cents?
Yeah, exactly 25 cents every time.
Every time. Wow,
Yep.
that's just incredible.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty good for us.
Good, good. And so when was the Dwolla established?
The concept we came up with, I think, in 2008, 2009. We started doing some development, kind of pitched an initial bank to work with us. Thankfully, they said yes. We started kind of building out the platform. We released it in 2009 in Iowa. Operated for a year in Iowa and California, kind of an open beta, which is to say that not everyone could utilize it, but kind of operated in those two states. And opened up nationally December of 2010.
National, yeah, I was actually there.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah. And so how many employees is there at Dwolla right now?
I think we've probably got about a dozen people working on the project in different kind of facets. Some people are kind of like an outsourced CFO, or like our design individual is not full-time quite yet. But I would say probably over the next 12 months, there'll probably be closer to 14, 15.
That's good.
Things are kind of happening so fast, so we're working a lot on infrastructure and kind of trying to stay ahead of the game a little bit, with making sure that as customers and new users come in, that we can, scale reliably.
We've seen some, major, not corporation, but blogs and websites actually, talking about, well, like Mashable. Can you say more about, like, where else have you, your company?
I think probably the two most notable places from a tech perspective that we've been mentioned is Lifehacker and Mashable. But on December 1st, when we released the product nationally, we had an article through the Associated Press. It got repurposed and republished a lot. And that was republished and repurposed through things like Forbes, MSNBC, the Huffington Post, and just a long line of other ones. And once that got reposted on like the New York Times and stuff like that, that obviously brought us a lot of credibility. So, we've kind of been working on building the platform out off that press, and working up for some more really big things next month that we're working on.
Oh, that's good. So when that whole press release happened, did you get a lot of attention from? Did you get a lot of sign-ups and things like that?
Yeah, I think with a financial services product, we have a lot of education to do. I don't think that it's the type of product in today's society that most people sign up for the first time they see it. They come back to the third or the fifth time and things like that. And we're kind of seeing a lot of that we kind of see a bump in initial traffic, and then those people are coming back in a couple months and actually end up signing up, and then there's a little bit of a lull, and then they start utilizing it and things like that. So, we have a little bit of an interesting life cycle, but we have seen a really good jump in users. We have seen a really good jump, especially in transaction volumes. And above all else, we've seen a huge jump in the number of developers that have started to work on the platform. And for us, that's incredibly important, is, being able to work with developers since they're putting the platform in all their work.
And the platform is currently available on, like, just going to it online, or is it on mobile, or?
Yep, Dwolla is a consumer-facing application. You can utilize it on the web, on iOS devices, Android, or Windows 7. We offer a kind of merchant product, or a merchant kind of portal, if you will. It allows you to see a feed of incoming transactions or payments for a retail environment that runs on iOS devices, and you can use the web. But the development environment is we have two different APIs, a SOAP API and a REST API, so anybody that's pretty well-versed in APIs essentially would be able to handle it pretty well. It's pretty easy to digest.
I like the fact, actually, when the Dwolla went national, and when we were at the coffee shop, what was it named?
Mars.
Yeah, Mars Cafe, and I like the fact that, you know, you could pay actually the coffee via, you know, you pay via your phone, and,
Mhm.
you know, they just got it over the phone too. I mean, and the transaction is 25 cents. I
Yep.
mean, it's not like, it's great.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that's been interesting for us to kind of have people wrap their head around is that there's not necessarily a traditional terminal, it's basically views, and the merchant view is that, well, I've just been paid, I can confirm that, and now I can give you what you purchased from me. And on the consumer side, it's, you know, how do I initiate the transaction? And I think the market is really working towards, well, maybe I'm initiating with like a swipe or a barcode or a QR code, and we just work on hitting a button. So we kind of have what I think is maybe a little bit more simple solution to it.
That's good, that's good. And do you, I mean, in like, what are the future, some stuff that you are working on currently, or are there any, or?
There's a ton.
There's a ton.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Anything that you can share with us would be great.
You know, I think that one of the interesting things that we've done really early on is we concentrated really heavily on how we connect people, and obviously that we leverage social networks. And no one in a financial transaction has really leveraged social networks in the same way. And I think that other social networks that might be location-based, or other social networks that may be more, you know, built on professional environments or things like that, you know, we have all these basically repositories of contacts, and how we utilize that to make financial transactions easier is something that I think the need for that is going to continue to grow. And I think that we're probably one of the few that's really working, you know, very early on leveraging that. You know, we're still not worried on getting to 1 million users as fast as humanly possible overnight. We're kind of more building infrastructure in the platform, and building value slowly and reliably.
That's good, because, I mean, that's one of the important things where a startup, you know, takes off really good, and then we have seen startups before where they would start and then they would be offline for a day or something, you know. It's not something that...
Yeah, every day, you know, those types of things are, I think, bound to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that for us, you know, if you jump from processing $1 million to $50 million overnight,
Yeah.
you know, that's an interesting pill to swallow, and it can be handled, but how it is pretty interesting. And I think that, you know, we've been conservative about our estimates and the way we have handled certain things, and we haven't gone out and tried to just, you know, not quadruple overnight, but maybe increase in size by 100,000% in a week. You know, that's just kind of not what we're not shooting for that.
Okay. And as far as the privacy, and I mean, people talk about privacy nowadays like a lot, you know, Facebook and everything.
Absolutely.
So how is the privacy of the consumer and like the privacy, like, you know, getting hacked or anything like how does that work as well?
That's a great question. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects inside of a financial transaction that it's really not just privacy alone. You know, you also have to think about security. So, you know, intrusion. So how can you make sure someone doesn't get in to get my data? How are you managing my data? How is the money in the system protected? How is the data that's controlling the money protected? I mean, there's a lot of different facets and layers inside of a financial transaction. And I think on top of that, you also have social network data. So how are you protecting my social network data now that you're utilizing that? And I think that there are a lot of really good answers for it. And I think the best surface level ones are, to be honest, one, we're not selling anything to advertisers. So you don't have to worry about us selling your information to other people. We utilize the information to basically connect you better to engage in transaction the way you want to. Because the way we make money is on the transaction cost. So we want to allow you to engage in a transaction as easily as humanly possible with who you want to engage in a transaction with. So that's our interest, which makes us relatively transparent about what we're doing with your data. We just want that transaction to be as easy as humanly possible. On the flip side, you know, managing, you know, incoming intrusion and data itself, one thing that I feel like we've benefited from really heavily is one of our investors is a company called the Members Group, which is a financial services company which provides security services to essentially banks and credit unions. So they have kind of come into our platform and said, okay, well, this is great, but let's look at all of these things, let's do these things differently, and then let's integrate some sort of a process for scaling with this. So we're basically kind of utilizing the same security infrastructure that financial institutions are, and that's very easy for me to say because our partner and our investor and the guy looking over our shoulder is essentially the person providing it to financial institutions. So we've been really able to benefit from that really heavily.
That's great, actually. I mean, when you say it that way. And as far as the competitors, how do they see you right now at this point? You know,
I don't know if I see us much at all. I think that we're kind of a blip on the radar still.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we serve a largely underserved market. I feel like a lot of financial exchanges online are serving the credit union and debit. I commonly refer to it as the plastic market, and it's how to load money in as fast as going to be possible and get it out. And everybody's eating that 2 to 4%. You know, you say 5%, that only applies to Amex. You say 1.9, that only applies to somebody who's doing, you know, 100+ million a year in sales. So, you know, essentially there's this wide range of people that are kind of trying to solve the problem, but they're all kind of going about it the same way. And what we really did is we kind of just said, well, how could we get money in, you know, as fast as possible, yet use the lowest common denominator, which is to say the most cost-effective way of getting money in and out. And then how can we do that at an expedited rate? And how can we do that as fast as humanly possible? So I think we've concentrated on a market that, which is the cash market, I guess you could say, which is largely underserved online. Sometimes I use the analogy that when you go into a retail environment, you can pay with plastic or you can pay with cash, but when you shop online, you can pay with plastic, but what's the cash option? You know, we're it. So with that said, I think that we serve a market that's just not well represented on the internet yet.
Okay. Well, that's great. I mean, as far as that, it's just that, I mean, I saw a lot of, you know, communication going back and forth between, of course, Dwolla and PayPal, you know. Just, to me, it was, you know, when I was introduced.
I think people like to poke PayPal a little bit, and sometimes on our behalf.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's, you know, that has its ups and its downs, but,
yeah.
you know, I see PayPal as, you know, PayPal is a prime example of build a company, you know, deal with your issues and grow. And, you know, I think that for us, maybe long term, I think there's maybe more of a potential integration between us rather than, you know, a complete butt of the heads, just because our products fundamentally really are so different.
Yeah, true that. Ask you, do you have anything soon that it's gonna come out, or are you gonna guys maybe go internationally?
International for us is gonna take some time. You know, it took us about a year to really wrap our heads around the regulatory structure inside of the United States. And once you start moving money outside of the United States, you just get into this whole new game. And I think that that's something that, you know, we don't want to just jump into head over heels. We want to know what we're getting ourselves into, and we have more to learn in international markets. We simply have more to learn. And with things going as fast as they are, I think that, you know, our company is building value, and we are, you know, serving our users well, and it's happening at a rate that we can sustain. And we see enough, you know, growth potential inside the United States where I think we're going to continue to concentrate on, you know, consumers, merchant, developers, and financial institutions in the United States. We have some really big stuff coming out next month that is, you know, will be kind of centric to the U.S. market, but some really big stuff happening next month.
Oh, that's great. I would love
Very excited. We got another meetup. You should come to that one too.
Yeah, I will definitely. So, thank you for doing an interview with me. And
no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.